Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Glenda Chavez, and on my channel you will find all kinds of DIY content, including furniture flipping. So the wooden filing cabinets that we're working on today have been sitting in my garage for over 6 months. To say that I am relieved is an understatement because I am finally getting to work on them. Several of you guys had asked me a couple of videos back if I could try out the Black Sheep House all-in-one paint recipe. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that, be sure to stick around to the end of the video. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I removed the drawers to make cleaning the pieces a bit easier, and I used a TSP substitute and a clean rag. Because I would later be sanding the drawer fronts, I didn't bother to remove the hardware before cleaning. I started off with 120 grit sandpaper using my orbital sander, and for the rounded edges I used a sanding sponge, and then moved on to 240 to smooth the wood out. So I've just got some 2-part Bondo wood filler here, and I'm going to use it to fill in the holes of these original hardware. I wasn't going to. I hadn't measured the holes yet, but I initially thought that the holes were the 3.78 or 3.75 measurement. Turns out they're not. They're more like 3.5. And the hardware that I had ordered came in yesterday. I checked and they don't fit. So I'm going to have to fill in the holes. I ordered longer hardware, so that way I can go ahead and use the new ones that I ordered. Otherwise, I wouldn't be filling them. I'd just be reusing these same holes, but that's okay. It shouldn't take long. As I waited on the wood filler to dry, I moved on to scuff sanding the bases using a sanding sponge. Okay, so for this video, I'm going to be using regular latex paint, and I'm going to be making my own chalk style paint. It can be a little bit more expensive if you do buy your own chalk paint instead of making your own. Now, to make my own chalk paint, I'm going to be using BB Frost. I want to thank BB Frost for sending over their expansion kit and sponsoring this part of today's video. I've been a fan of theirs for a while. As you guys know, I've used their transforming powder for quite some time now, and I have a couple of other videos that I will have listed in the description so that you guys can check those out if you're interested in those transforming transformations. It makes making chalk paint super fast, super easy, and very affordable. These containers at your local hardware store can probably be like $2 or $2.50 usually, at least in my local hardware store. If you get them in the oops department or in the department where they've mistinted colors, and that is a super affordable way for you to be able to make your own chalk paint. I'm just going to follow those instructions, and I'm going to be mixing it in this clear container that the expansion kit comes with. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside. Now, several of you guys have mentioned in a couple of videos back that Black Sheep House channel had put out a video with a recipe for a DIY all-in-one paint, and several of you guys asked me to check it out and see if it was a good formula and see if it was something that I personally liked or didn't. So I am actually going to be transforming this chalk paint into a all-in-one paint as well. According to her formula, you want to use equal parts primer, equal parts paint, and equal parts top coat. We're going to go ahead and follow those instructions on her video, and I'm gonna leave her video link down in the description below if you guys are interested in watching that video to get further instructions. Again, this is not my formula. This is not my original idea. I'm sure there are several people who have come up with this idea before. I am just taking her specific video because you guys mentioned it to me and asked that if I could let you guys know what I thought about it. So, and I'm not going to actually be measuring. I'm just going to eyeball it. Then I'm going to add my transforming powder. I'm going to be using the Kiehl's Premium Primer, triple thick polyurethane in a satin finish by Behr. The color that I'm using, by the way, is called White Moderne. So I'll have that listed down in the description, of course, as always, if you guys are interested in that color. After applying the first coat on one of the bases, I realized there was some bleed through showing through, and so I decided to go ahead and spray with some Kiehl's original oil-based formula. I waited on that to dry and moved on to sanding down the wood filler. At this point, I had decided that it was better if I switched from a brush to using my sprayer because I felt like I wasn't getting a smooth enough finish. Originally, I wanted to use the golden oak stain, but realized it was not going to work for the look that I was going for, so I decided to go on dark walnut instead. I lightly sanded between coats before adding the second. I had to add additional support to the bottom in order to attach the legs. I didn't have any spare 2x2, so I went ahead and made my own from some scrap 2x6 pieces that I had. I attached them using pocket holes and then attached the legs with the hardware they came with and repeated the same steps for both nightstands. I gave the legs 2 coats of the all-in-one paint that we made. The next day, after the stain had completely dried, I added a light wash with the original latex paint that we used, not the all-in-one paint that we made. Once dried, it was time to drill new holes for the hardware. I start off by cutting a piece of tape slightly longer than my hardware, and then I grab my handle and press down to make an imprint of where my holes would go. I cut them out, but you can also poke them through with a pen or a pencil. The next step is to measure, mark, and make a hole of the center point of those 2 screw holes. Next, you want to measure and mark the center of the drawer front. You then take your piece of tape and match up that mark with the center hole on your tape. I double check and make sure that both screw holes are at the same distance from the top and adjust accordingly and mark the holes. This method never fails me, so hopefully I've explained it well enough and you find it helpful. I know several of y'all have asked in the past how I do it. Before I attached my hardware, I added a generous coat of everything natural wax using a microfiber cloth and let it sit for 15 minutes before wiping off the excess. Now let's take a moment to remember what these once filing cabinets used to look like and what they look like now.
As far as my
my thoughts with the all-in-one paint recipe. I really did not like brushing it on. I felt like it was very difficult to work the paint because the work time was altered. I'm assuming due to the fact that we added the top coat and the primer into the actual paint. Now, I've never had this issue when I've mixed BB Frosh with latex paint, so I know for sure that that was not the issue. I really think that it was the primer and the top coat added into the paint that altered the work time. It did, however, spray really nicely, so I didn't have any issues with that. I think it went really smooth. For this specific project, I could not skip the priming step because unfortunately I did have some bleed through, as you guys saw after adding the first coat with the brush. It didn't save me any time on that sense, but it did save me some time from having to add the top coat. I will be able to give y'all an update in a couple of months, hopefully. They are going to a relative who purchased them from me, so thankfully I'll be able to see for myself how well they're holding up. And I will let you guys know if they are or if they're not. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. Thank y'all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts as well, what you thought of these nightstands. And I love y'all. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.